You're listening to the Uncommon Life Podcast. Whether you're a startup or you've been in business for 10 years, this show is for you. Each week, you'll get mentored by business leaders who deliver valuable strategies, tactics, and tips on how you can pursue your passion without compromise. We'll show you how to achieve balance while sticking to your core values so you can have an uncommon life. Now, here's your host, Jimmy Fullerton.
All right. Coming up in part 2, talking with Chason Perry, we go into some really cool stuff about their training philosophy because they train pro athletes and special ops guys. And we talk about the focus at that level is more on the minimum effective dose and also a heavy focus on recharging and longevity instead of, wearing your body down. And this can be applied to business as well. So there's a lot of good stuff if you're an entrepreneur. We also talk about listening to your customers, which I know is a recurring theme, but it's so important and good information there. And also we talk about the downside of having too many goals. So once again, it's good information. I think you will get a lot out of it. So part 2 of my interview with Chason Perry of Impact Performance RX. So I would like to shift gears and talk a little bit about your training philosophy over there. Like, what is your primary philosophy of training and how has it evolved, or has it evolved?
Oh, yeah. The worst thing as a coach that you can do is if you've become complacent and you don't continue to learn, then you don't need to coach anymore. We evolve all the time. We're always trying new stuff. Our training philosophy is it's not about teaching movements. It's teaching you how to move. And the difference in that is we look at things. For example, when we block our schedule off on what we're hitting for our workouts for the day, it's a system, and that whole system has an integration to it that allows adaptability. But one of the ways that we may go, instead of doing a squat for us, today's a low body bilateral push. So we actually have a mapping system that we use with ours, which if you saw the background, I mean, I could spend days talking about how this goes there and why this does that and the order of operation and everything. But
pretend like I'm 5 years old and tell me what that means.
So to us, it actually simplifies it. You can get really deep into it, but when you break it down to its simplest form, it's not a low body, two-legged push, bilateral push. Mm-hmm. Like some people go in as like, oh, it's squat. They can just teach you how to squat. Well, we look at it as, no, it's still that two-part. It's a low push bilateral movement on that. But if they can't squat correctly, why? Is there a mobility issue? Is there a stability issue? And to us, it's not about how much weight you have, because strength is relative. If you can only lift 45 pounds, you can only lift 45 pounds. If you lift 450 pounds, you lift 450 pounds. You can't compare those two people. So, but there are limitations, and the higher up you go, it's not necessarily a adaptation of strength that's happening. There's a modality that you have to add where some people start to lose mobility, or they lose that flexibility, or they lose the stability or the core brace, or just on those movement patterns. So we look at making the whole body work together as one unit, and it's systemic.
That's what I was, okay.
Yeah, that's
the overall goal that you're trying to do is for a specific individual to make their entire body function as all the muscle groups to complement each other basically and work together.
Right.
For whatever that purpose is.
Right.
Whereas a lot of traditional lifting, I know with like bodybuilding and stuff like that, it's more about isolation.
Right.
And it sounds like the opposite of that. Is that right?
In a sense, yeah. But the funny thing about that is if I ask people, name one person in the world that if you go to the gym every day, and why do a lot of people go to the gym? And the inside joke
is pretty.
Look good naked, right?
I'm getting ready for the beach.
They want to, if I said pick a body type and pick any type of body type you want, but it can't be a TV celebrity or movie star, who do they pick? They're going to be like, oh, this one athlete. Like they always pick that athletic looking body that they want. And athletes can get big and jacked too. The way that we do it, our hypertrophy phases are different than a bodybuilding hypertrophy phase. It's the way that we contrast stuff, or like we superset our types of movements and things we do, because we're still looking at fast twitch fibers compared to slow twitch fibers, not just try to like break it completely down in that sense.
Well, let's talk about mindset, because I know we've talked before about this, and I know what are some of the differences you've seen in some of the athletes that were much further along, like the pro athletes that you have worked with? You've worked with some pretty notable people.
Yeah. Currently at our facility, what's funny is we're international. I have guys that play Major League Baseball in China. We have college kids name a university down here. We've got kids that play just about everywhere, which is insane to think 2 years into it. We've done 45 scholarships. We've won a state championship. We've won 3 baseball state championships. We have high school contracts, and that's another thing that makes us different. We do team training, so coaches can bring their teams in, and our teams start as young as 7 to our high school age teams. Each one of them is different. My oldest client's 65. So our ability to kind of adapt on the fly it's not easy to find coaches that can do that, because you have to, if I'm training 7 to 10-year-olds 1 hour and the next hour I've got pro athletes, it's a lot different than how you train those guys.
What are some of the differences between, I know not necessarily a 7 to 10-year-old, but like somebody in their 20s, mid-20s versus a pro athlete? What are some of the differences you've noticed in training?
For me, and each athlete is different within themselves. That's part of the art of coaching, is you've got to find the way to tap into that athlete to get the most out of them. Some guys are just extremely competitive. So sometimes you kind of get in their ear, and you don't have to like subject them out in front of the group, because they won't respond to that. But I've had many times with some of my pro guys that they are usually good to go. You let them, you don't have to do a lot of teaching. They are where they are. And the truth is, training pro athletes is easy. Like, you want to be a good coach, learn how to train like 7 to 14.
Self-motivated. A lot of self-motivation there, because that's how they make their money.
And they're so natural. They pick up stuff so fast. Like, you teach them, when we look at speed mechanics, like those are really hard to teach. And these guys just pick it up instantaneously, where you have like that 14-year-old kid that's a little bit like awkward and doesn't have the great movement quality to him. And it might take him months to pick up some that somebody else picks up in 20 minutes. So just being able to be patient with them, and being able to change that.
I'm sorry, I'm going to interrupt you there, but what gives you the most fulfillment? I mean, training the pro athlete, or the one that needs a lot of work, or somewhere in the middle there?
I think each one is a different type of fulfillment. Like, you get stuff you feel good when you hear parents tell you like how much their kids love coming in and training with you, and how much of a difference it makes. And you know that some of those kids will never grow on to be like superstar stud athletes and get college scholarships and things like that, but you're training them and teaching them and making a positive influence on them. And then, you get your pro guys that go on and they go out and they have a career year after they've been with you in the off season, and the best year that they've had in their whole entire career. And you know that you get a part of that. I need to start I need a little bit of a bonus when they do that. But it's each one is different, and being able to tap into each group or each individual. The pros are more individual, kids are more of a group. But what makes it nice is, in our facility, you could be training any type of person like that at any time. And I think finding the right coaches to do that, that's not everybody can do that.
That's a good point. So how do you find the right coaches? Because they have to be, it sounds like you have to have a wide variety of people in there to meet your needs, because you got a wide range of people that you're training. So how do you find these coaches?
I recruit.
How?
I've you know people, and then you try to find people.
You do it through referrals, basically. Is
yeah.
That what you're saying?
More referrals than anything. I put out for.
That's a common, I swear, man, that's just a common thread through almost every interview I've done. Whenever I talk about hiring or bringing the right people on board, it's all about getting the right people on the bus, as they say. What's that? Was that good to great? Yeah. So the common thread, I've never gotten the magic bullet. Like, there's not like some hack for getting the right people. or finding the right people to come to work for you. It's about really through referrals and, about knowing people that you trust, I guess, have a good enough idea about what you need and be able to match that up. Is that kind of what you're able to do?
Yeah, you have to have people that can see the bigger picture.
Can you give me an example of how you have used referrals to get a great or good employee? I'm sorry, all of your employees are great. Obviously, your coaches rather. So, right?
Yeah, when you're in the community as much as we are, and you work with athletes, especially, and you work with all different sports, and you work with kids and parents. And, a lot of what makes our gym unique is we have a program where mom and dad can come in and bring their kid, and they're doing their workout with their coaches while the kids are doing their workout with their coaches. So the gym has always been kind of like the sanctuary. And in college and pro sports, we always say like the head coach is like dad and the strength coach is kind of like mom. Like when you are having issues, you go to mom. In strength, we know everything about everybody. Like people tend to just kind of open up to us. And I don't know where the psychology of that all breaks down into, but there's always just I
think because they spend more time with the strength coach.
Yeah, your family with these people. Like if you have a bad day and you need to blow off steam, you go to the gym. And when you want to just talk about you end up usually just kind of airing stuff out. And, there's probably stuff that we shouldn't know about people sometimes, but you don't break that trust with your people because they just need to vent. They need to let that out. And when you become that, you become like a family. And then when you need something back, it's funny how fast you just start listening to people. And I think that's another key as a business owner. You've got to listen to your clients. We don't do enough of that. And we listen to our clients. And when we talk to them, if they know somebody, put a word out, it's usually very easy to find a referral.
That's something else that there's another guy that I interviewed, JP Crawford, Diverge Fitness, that I was telling you about. They do that, very extensive listening period. He works more on functional fitness and stuff like that. And the extent JP goes to in listening was really interesting to hear. And it sounds like you do the same thing, but it's like that I'm figuring out it's like that in any business, really. The more you listen to and get to know your customers or who your ideal clients are and what they need, the more chances you're going to have of your business having sustained success. So yeah, listening to your customers is hugely important. So what process, when you're meeting with somebody that wants to join Impact, what do you screen them, or do you have a different screening methods depending on what they want? Some want personal training, but do you allow people to come in there that just want to be a member and don't need a lot of attention?
Yeah, we have open gym memberships. You just come in and use and that's one of the things with this coronavirus stuff and everybody being shut down right now. We're actually looking at rearranging our whole adult program to kind of rebuild it in a new way. I'm adding sports medicine in the summer. So I'll actually have a physical therapist and a sports medicine clinic on site, which I think will be humongous because you'll be able to, if you have an injury and you are hurt, the thing about sports and pro sports that a lot of people don't see is the interconnection of physical therapy, athletic training, and strength conditioning as one unit. Even in special forces, I shared my office with a physical therapist. So we worked very side by side with guys that were hurt, or we always said we're trying to get a steak through a drive-through menu. It's like we want a steak dinner, but I need a drive-through service.
Yeah.
Because we had to get guys back in the field faster than normal. So you kind of have to take extreme measures. With this being shut down, we have an open gym. We do classes. We're going to hit more the one-on-one and the small group training. And then, look at things that are like camps. I hate the term boot camp because everybody does that, but more like a sports camp type. It's kind of the same thing. The verbiage is different, but it's just the training's different too. It's not just let's bring you in and just crush you for an hour. Right. We don't believe in that. That's not our style. We don't run along. We're not like HIIT fitness. We're not CrossFit. It's more about quality, not quantity.
Right. What was your primary goal with the Special Forces? What were you trying to teach in that capacity, those people?
Those guys were, my job was very unique. I was the only one that had a position like mine because I had detachments in Savannah and Tacoma, Washington. So I had to TDY or travel back and forth. So instead of them like a team, it was more about teaching them how to be self-sufficient and then giving them guidance on their programming. But their travel schedule is so chaotic that they don't always have the same gym from day to day or week to week. So they may be on the road during a training and have to use like a local gym. They may be back at our gym at their facility on post. They might have to do stuff out in the field with very limited stuff, but it was kind of like building them structure and really put an emphasis on nutrition, because that was the one part with them where they were all lacking.
Give me an example of structure you tried to implement for them.
So before this, we were talking about the difference between pro and kids and stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of times your high speed guys that have that mentality that get them to where they're at, when they hit a point in their career, it's not about how much harder can you go. It's about how much can you preserve, because you can't really get much better. You're already the cream of the crop. So now, like at college,
so how much can you preserve? Can you clarify that? I think I know what you mean, but just
it's the less is more principle.
Yeah.
We don't want to wear their joints down. We don't want
minimum effective dose.
Right, to get the maximal result.
Yeah.
And that is where we referred to it at West Virginia, and I worked under Mike Barrows, I love Mike. He's the New York Mets head guy right now. Mike owns like 4 places across the country now, and he has paralyzed people walking again. He's insane, just how his brain works. That you work with like guys like that and you see what they're able to do. Like in college, we referred to it as it was very aggressive. You almost don't, I hate to say it like this, but if you want to make an omelet, you might have to crack some eggs, right? So you've got to aggressively push them to that point. When you get to the pros, it's more about keeping them from getting injured. So it's a more relaxed mindset.
So it's like, sort of like maybe with a business to a certain extent, where they're at a different level. So you're having to get them to escape velocity. Basically, you're having to push them to a certain point that they're probably not used to going. And so until they reach escape velocity, they're having to be pushed pretty hard. But then once they get to that level, where they're at a certain level, like the pro athletes, who I guess for the purposes of this, we'll say they've reached escape velocity, and they're kind of, they're looking for ways they don't have to be pushed, but they have to learn how to be smarter and conserve what they have. Is that kind of?
Yeah, your SF guys, your military guys, because that's what they're taught. So their whole career is just like, go as hard as you can and take no for an answer. Don't take no for an answer. So then they get to a point where it's like, all right, you're the elite of the elite, but now we need to preserve you for a long time. That your operational tempo cannot be the same.
That's a great point, because I have met so many different people over the years living here in Columbus, with a lot of Rangers that I've met. One that I worked closely with, and he's just wrecked his body over time. I don't know if how much of that is. I know several of these guys, their mindset has been one of just go 100% all the time or not at all. It's kind of like an all or nothing. And over time, the way they've pushed themselves and ignoring those pain barriers, eventually your body is going to catch up to you. And so what you're talking about doing is once you get to that point mentally of finding out a better way to preserve your body and every element that you use, so that you can have endurance.
Yeah. It's kind of like having a sports car. You buy a brand new sports car, and every time you punch the gas down, you go, pedal to the metal, and then you slam the brakes every time you stop. It's still going to perform. It's still going to be really, really good. But as time goes on, you're going to wear that car down. That engine's going to be shot. You're going to wear the brakes down. Like you're going to either have to replace stuff, i.e. injury, or you're just eventually going to break the car and it's not going to run.
Hey guys and gals, my apologies for interrupting, but I have something I want to share with you. If you want to recession-proof your life and be able to thrive financially in any environment, then I have something for you. It's a blueprint I use for business and life. It's a combination of what I've learned from my mentors and through my own blood, sweat, and tears over the course of 20 years. It contains 5 key principles that will transform and elevate your life and business if you apply them consistently. Believe me, if I had this blueprint 20 years ago, I could have saved myself a lot of time and money, but I'm sharing it with you now for free when you go to www.uncommonlifepodcast.com. You can get yours for free today. So let's go back to a minimum effective dose. So that's kind of what is that sort of where, like when you're training and teaching these special ops guys, is that kind of what, because their schedule is so chaotic and hectic and they're constantly on the move, I can get where they want to be able to accomplish as much physically in as little time as possible. So you're giving them whatever's going to make them the most efficient in their training. Is that kind of what you focus on doing for them?
Yeah, it's about teaching them when it's okay to really go hard at it, and then when you need to be smart at what you're doing, and then how do you get the maximal effect from the minimal dose. A great example is doing like box jumps. Like they would do workouts where they have to do hundreds of box jumps, and without getting into the science of it, that actually is breaking down the joints, and it's teaching your body to not be as explosive and powerful and not be able to jump. So your power production is way down. That's important. There's power and strength go together. They're separate things, but they have to relate. So when we started, like, you put them through workout, and one of the tricks that I had to learn was we're programming smart and we're working on all these other things. It's not just about weightlifting. It's like in between sets, we're doing correctional exercise, like your functional movement patterns and things like that. And then at the end of the workout, they're like, well, I'm not smoked. And they're just used to going in and just smoking themselves day in and day out. So we had
in like 3 days when most people would take, 2 or 3 days to recover from that, and what you're teaching them allows for a much faster recovery of the muscles.
We actually taught them more on how to regen than the importance of regeneration and actually programming regeneration into your workouts than just workouts themselves. We told them it's more of think of it like not a workout, but a lifestyle. And from day to day, what are you doing to make, to build your body up a little bit more? Because if you think about it, weightlifting is bad for you. What are you doing when you weightlift? You're breaking down your body. The adaptation is your body healing from that. And trying to get guys to understand that, like, you need to focus more on healing your body and less on breaking it down. And if you know how to break it down smart, you don't have to continue to pound yourself to get the maximal gains that you want to. And then the guys that buy into it, like, they started seeing the results that other guys that wouldn't buy into it did. And then you just look at them and it's like proof's in the pudding, guys.
Yeah.
And I think that was a big wake up call for, a lot of them that I still talk to this day, that I actually still program for. I had a military guy that was a member at our gym that came from like the CrossFit community and still did his own CrossFit stuff. He's an open gym member, just wreck himself.
I see a lot of the same thing, with CrossFit people. I mean, I have a lot of respect for what they do, but yeah, I mean, I've heard the same stories. A lot of them, they'll be into CrossFit for a while. They'll be doing great. They'll be as fit as they've ever been, but then I'll see them 6 months later and they've quit. They've stopped. They've had an injury or something and they're just not doing it anymore. I mean, I've seen that a lot. I don't know if you've seen that, but I've seen that quite a bit.
Yeah, there's a high injury rate in it. It's not for everybody. Like, I'm thankful that CrossFit popularized Olympic weightlifting and things like that and brought it back to mainstream. So although I don't agree with a lot of the techniques of it, if it's done the correct way, it's okay. Like, there's, it's a generalized kind of sportish type program. My guy that had been doing it, he was a real high speed guy, and he came to me and was like,
when you say high speed, you mean fast twitch, or do you mean like easy, just a really good athlete?
Just really good in general.
Okay.
Like,
gotcha.
He could kind of do a little bit of everything.
Right.
And he wanted his program changed. And I was like, well, what are your goals? And he just kind of like rattled off like 10 different things. I'm like, all right, that's your first problem.
Too many goals.
You have to hyper focus on one or two. And I think in business this is the same way.
You knew exactly where I was wanting to go.
It's the same thing, right?
Like a synchronicity there. Yeah. You got to hyper focus. So when somebody comes to you with like 10 different or too many goals, what do you recommend they winnow that down to?
Just go to 2 or 3.
2 or 3.
And I think what you want is have 2 short term and at least 1 medium. Because sometimes even in like a new business or somebody that's getting, starting a new chapter in their life where there's unexpected, you can have that long-term goal and kind of a vision. My vision of what we've become is a lot different than when I originally started it.
Yeah, I mean, I really agree with that because my long-term planning is crap. I mean, I can't. So things change so much. So I may start something with an idea, like the podcast, for instance, I might start with one idea in mind I'm not talking about for an interview, but for where it's going long term. But I've seen this in my life where I might start out with one idea and it will evolve and change as I get more information about something, and I'll alter my plan on where I want to go. So while I think it's good to have long-term goals, and I applaud people that do that, I tend to keep mine more short and medium term. That tends to work better for me. And as I get more information, I'll tweak them, but the long term, I've never been really good at real long-term planning because I don't know how things are going to evolve in a given situation.
That's where I think a lot of people get caught up, is when they get that fork in the road. It's all of a sudden like wasn't planned for, like coronavirus now. Yeah.
If you fixated your head, you've the only danger I see in the long-term thing, if you get fixated on it, you're not willing to pivot or adjust or adapt based on new information, but you're fixated on that long-term goal because it's a goal. Therefore, you've got to accomplish that goal regardless. That's the only danger I see in it for people that, that do that feel like they have to become fixated. What they call it in the military, target fixation, So, yeah, and so many things change, and it seems like the rapid pace of change is just increased so much lately that it's more important for me to be able to adapt quickly.
Yes.
And respond to what's happening around me. So,
well, that's what's happening with everybody now. I mean,
yeah,
we've all said and talked about it. If I hear COVID-19 one more time, like
what?
Right. It's like now, as being a gym owner, and we're membership based, and we do, we lost some camps, and we're definitely going to take a hit on this stuff, but
we're in the same boat, brother.
Yeah, like
this is a mass assembly place where birthday parties and controlled chaos is what we're going for.
So what do we do now?
Yeah, we're having to make a mental shift in how we are going to run our business in light of what all's happened. So since we're on that, and we're right at 52 minutes, I would like to, we're talking about the virus and how it's impacted us. And, it's been quite an emotional roller coaster. I know for both of us, it has been, when we realized that we were going to have to shut our doors temporarily, it was a tough blow. It means, possibility of layoffs, and we love the people that work for us,
Yep.
And we want to make sure they're taken care of, and that's just tough, and you've dealt with the same things. How mentally, what are some things you've done to stay positive? There's a lot of stuff out there that you could get, that we could complain about and get negative. There's plenty out there. There always has been, there always will, but what are some things you've done to make sure you maintain a positive outlook and kind of keep your momentum going forward?
You know that baseball movie, like, is it Bull Durham, where he says reset mechanism, like before he pitches?
Yeah.
He's like
LaRouche,
yeah, that
LaRouche, yeah.
That
Tim Robbins' character.
Is it Tim Robbins?
Nuke LaRouche, yeah.
That he's
a pitcher.
He's like, when I have to tell myself that right now in the first few days, I'm a coach, so I'm an emotional person. Like, I like to get. Like, I thrive off the environment. Like I said earlier, I'm more comfortable with a lot of people around than even like one-on-one training for me. Like, I'd rather have big groups because it's comforting. I can bounce from one thing to the other and move, and you kind of take that away from me. And now I'm sitting at home, and the first couple of days were mad.
That was, quite a adjustment for you to have to make.
Not being around everybody, like
you're
family.
A natural born multitasker. Mm-hmm. You're hardwired that way. So how did that affect you, and what are you doing about it?
So now when we started the business, we're in a 7,000 square foot space. And then we moved last year to 12,000, and now we bought the baseball and softball facility beside us, and now we're at 24. We did that in 2 years. So there's a lot of stuff that, because we moved at a rapid pace, which is a good problem to have, that we didn't get a chance to get done. So now we're doing that. And it's not just getting caught up, but now I think we're going into this prepare for what's coming next. And it's going to be about, all right, I brought my team in. what are we going to do when everything goes back to normal? And let's assume that normal is different. So we're getting out into the community now. Right now, we know we have our high school baseball. We have a ton of high school baseball kids that we work with. And you work all year long with these kids, and you just saw their season get taken away from them. You know, Northside wins a state championship last year, and they don't get to defend their title. And we've had these kids for 2 years, and it's just, that's hard for us. When you're a coach, you don't thrive off your personal success. You thrive off the success that you see your people have. I could care less how I succeed. I care more about how my people do. So not getting to see them do what they've
trained,
prepared to do. We're kind of using this as okay, well, let's go out and do something positive. We're trying to organize kind of like a off the books type game for the seniors and the teams, because their season's over, where we're calling coaches and we're like, we know that, you know, we're at a point where I don't really care about the high school, Georgia High School State Association rules, and I don't think they're going to care either. We want these boys to at least have a tournament, like a local tournament where you can come in and get to play with your team, even if it's just an exhibition game, and maybe we do like a senior home run derby or something like that, and like give back to the community. Do it for free, but like somebody's got to organize it and do it. Because we're private sector, we can do that, and it's not a high school sanctioned thing, but it's like let's at least do something for these guys. But that also is PR for us, and I think that a lot of people don't take advantage of that, where you can do good stuff and you don't have to do it where it's always making money for you, but that's the kind of PR you can't pay for. You can't pay for that kind of advertising.
Right. So you're basically you're using this time to try to get more involved and give back to the community. And ultimately we all know that will pay dividends at some point. But yeah, that's a good way to explain it. It's something you're doing. You're sowing a seed now that you'll reap later, but you're not doing it for the money. You're doing it to add value, basically, to the community and to people's lives.
Yeah, you got to show people you actually really do care.
Yeah.
We don't have to do that. Like, we could try to organize something and charge for it, but the point of this isn't about making money, even though we're taking a hit right now on a loss.
Right.
The point of this is doing what's right. And these are our kids. These are the guys that we were in the trenches with and that we trained through. And, our position is, my job every day is to tell somebody to do something they're extremely uncomfortable with doing, and that you have to trust me. You just have to do it. I don't need excuses, just do it. And they're like, okay. And it sucks sometimes, and it's like not always the most pleasurable, because you're trying to push that gain on those higher level athletes, especially. And now you don't get to show them why you did what you did the whole off season.
Yeah. Yeah. They can't see the wisdom behind what you were, or realize the fruit of what they were doing. Yeah. Yeah. I get that. That would be, very deflating. But so you're doing that, getting more involved in the community, trying to give back in some ways to the kids that you've invested in. And what else are you doing to stay positive?
We have that going. That was what my team meeting was about, was we opened this baseball softball facility in December, and then we lose baseball and softball season. So all of our marketing has changed. Like, we lost all of our traction with our, we do a lot of recruiting where we go to events and pass out information, set up a tent, talk to people. We lost all that. And we're starting a baseball facility when baseball season's canceled.
Yeah.
So we also did some other stuff where you and I talked on the phone a little bit about it, where we saw that, for us, that 20 to 35-year-old market of the adult, you don't have to be an athlete. We just use the athletic training as a platform. I noticed that there was a group on a Facebook page that I kept getting invited to, was the Columbus, Georgia waiters and bartenders. And this group blew up overnight, and it was formed as a way for people to tip local bartenders and waitresses and help out during this time for them losing their jobs. And, they're just all a community now.
Yeah.
And I put out a post, one of those kind of shot in the dark things, always thought it'd be fun to have a big party workout type deal for adults only in that age group.
Well, yeah. What did you refer to that as?
Bourbon and barbells.
Bourbon and barbells. Yeah, I like that.
I do. Bourbon's a weakness. No, I don't drink much, but I do like it.
It's a winter drink,
right? Just a little tiny glass here and there. But when we reached out to them, within, all I did was a shot in the dark. I put a post up that says, hey, own a gym. When this is all over, we should do a big party. and have everybody come in, and you guys that are waiters and bartenders can come like work it, and then we'll advertise it to the community and like really push people to like give good tips that night, because you're not really working it. It's more of a fun get together, but you can serve and stuff like that, do like a cookout. Within 3 hours, I already had caterers, reps from other companies, like I'm assuming alcohol companies and stuff like that, like they're reps that go out to these types of parties and stuff. We had managers at local restaurants and bars and things like that were offering their services to it. And I had like 15 people direct message me already just about like, hey, I want to do this. Cause we're like, we'll put up cornhole boards on the turf, and, we'll bring it, maybe get a DJ to come in and make it just a party to like, all right, this thing's over. Let's get back to normal. But is this something that we're going to make anything off of? No. But would it bring that 20 to 35-year-old market directly into my gym, and they see that we care? I mean,
you can be strategic about doing good and who you're trying to help. That's if you find out who you want to be your clients, your ideal clients, get in front of them and offer them something of value, something that's going to help them. And that will, what you're doing, I think, is right in line with that. I believe very strongly in that. So I think that's awesome what you're doing. It sounds like your business is going to do fine, but I know it's definitely been a challenge for everybody right now. So we're all in the same boat. I don't think there's been any, in my lifetime, I've never seen anything that has impacted every single person almost. I can't think of anybody that hadn't been touched in some way by this, So it's been quite a ride. Well, we're wrapping up here. It's like an hour and 2 minutes. So to get in touch with you, Chason, let's see, Facebook, your Facebook is IPRX on Facebook. And the name of your company, like I said, is Impact Performance RX. And on Instagram?
It's just at Impact Performance RX.
All right. And if you want to, you mind me giving out your Gmail?
No, go ahead.
Actually, it's not Gmail. It's Chason at impactperformancerx.com. So, man, I appreciate you taking this time. I know we've all got a lot going on, but I appreciate you taking this time and sharing some of this. Anything else you want to add before we say goodbye?
No, just stay positive.
Stay positive, everybody. I agree 100%. All right. Well, I appreciate it, man.
All right. Thank you.
This is the podcastfactory.com.